I'm Tony Ruiz of Gold Derby here with Lauro Chartrand-DelValle, the stunt coordinator for Shōgun. And Lauro, I just want to very briefly, when you look, I read something that you had said in another interview that you basically have what you call your no BS rule when it comes to stunts. And I was wondering if you could talk about that and how that really applied also here to this project.
Well, it really applied to this project, Shōgun, because of the amount of sword work that we did. And you'll often see, if you really break it down and slow-mo a sword fight that you watch on TV or on movies, a lot of times you don't even have to slow-mo it, but you'll see them clacking their swords over the head. They'll block up here. So this guy will swing and this guy will block it up there. And I'm like, that's total bullshit. Why are you doing that? If that guy swung, just cut him. You don't need to block that. It's going over your head, right? But it's filler. It's like, let's make this fight longer. Let's extend it. It's just entertainment. Let's just do that, right? And I've had to break that habit out of so many stunt performers that come and work for me because I just can't handle that. So I just call no bullshit. Okay, what are we going to do today? And everybody hollers, no bullshit. And so nobody clacks their swords over their heads, or I'm always like, go for the throat, go for the stomach, go for the back of the leg, go for a target. You have to be aiming at a target. And then you can block here, right? And then the swords are here, not up here. So that's my main bullshit rule, and it really applies to swords. But I do that with any fight scene or any stunt. If you're throwing a punch at somebody's head, don't throw it over their head. Why would you do that? Oh, well, I just want to be safe. No. You guys are professional stunt performers. You know what the choreography is. You work to make it safe by distance. Swing, 6 inches to a foot in front of his face. Camera's still going to sell it, but don't throw things over the head when they're supposed to duck. Like that, throw where the head is, and that person's supposed to duck. That's part of the choreography. Do it properly, So that's the basis behind my no bullshit rule.
So and you kind of alluded to it, is that then safety does become kind of paramount, and the choreography has to be so intricate and so well timed. And so, how much work goes into that?
Well, there's definitely a large amount of rehearsal time, but you rehearse it the same amount whether you do it right or you do it wrong. So let's just do it right and be safe with our distance. And you're a professional stunt performer. You're a professional. You're supposed to come to work and do it properly. And that's my whole goal. And we can do it safely and do it properly. It doesn't make it any more dangerous. It's just a different dynamic. Instead of missing up here, just miss out here, further away from the front of the head. It's that simple, So it's just habits that people get into that you need to break sometimes. And I'm really a stickler on that one.
So for a project as big and as epic, I find sometimes that word gets overused, but I think it's perfectly applicable to Shōgun in particular. For a project this size, what are some of the more kind of surprising or maybe unexpected things that you discovered working on a project this big with these massive sequences that stunts maybe somebody might not notice, but have to be just as intricately planned as, say, like a big battle sequence?
Yeah, well, we had a lot of those on Shōgun, and it's also related to me second unit directing the show as well, because everything that I filmed had to match what main unit filmed, or vice versa, right? We had to be seamless we shot in 5 different locations for a lot of these bigger sequences. Like the cliff sequence in the beginning of Shōgun, the first episode, was shot in 5 different places. And there was out in the open ocean where I had to construct a high line for safety for my stuntman that was in the water, and the real waves were crashing and keeping him from getting smashed against the rocks or washing out to sea. So that was one piece. And then we went to a place called the Swiss Gun Club in Coquitlam, where we built a fake wall, which was 9 feet high. And that was mainly for our actors to show them looking down, Cosmo, and then the start of their rappel. So I had to have a crane there for them to rappel off of a safety wire for them to go down. So they look like they're doing it all by hand, but of course we have a safety line on them so that they can't fall. Now that was 9 feet, and then visual effects took over the rest and showed the ocean below. And that was just to start the actors. And then we built another 50-foot wall over in Port Moody, where I did all the rappelling with the stunt performers and with the actors as well. I had Yabashige on there, and we had him on cables so that he was safe and he could do the whole thing, and the rope could break and fall. And of course, we had our stunt guy do the big wide fall. And then we had Hiro Manami, who was doubling him, fall right to the deck on another set that we built, which was a 30-foot wall inside of a wave tank. It was set into the water so that he could fall onto those rocks and then climb around and rescue the pilot, the Spanish pilot, pull him up, then slip and fall into the water. So he had to fall 10 feet into the water. And then the waves, we had a huge wave machine just smashing him against the rocks. And we did that with our stunt performer, and our actor also got in there and did a lot of it himself as well. So that sequence was just so many big pieces that,
Wow.
You know, as I came onto the show, I didn't fully know how I would pull it all off, but other departments have ideas and we collaborate and we put it all together and make it seamless. You know what I mean? The ship sequences were huge. We had full-size ships on gimbals, 40 feet in the air with a special effects rig with all kinds of different gyrating movement pieces that were connected to a computer that was over in a tent way off to the side. So I was on the ship, you know, 40 feet in the air, and I'm hollering to him, no, we got to go right now so that it goes here. And then the wave comes back this way. We have to time it together. And then I'd be trying to time it with special effects so that they could do their wave tank and dump a big load of water onto the deck to wash my stunt guy across to the other side to get washed over the side, and Cosmo run in to grab him. And of course we had them both cabled off. So I had riggers on the ship as well, running lines from the top of the mast. And it was just a huge undertaking to put all these pieces of the puzzle together and then to time it out perfectly so that the waves and the ship rock together. It doesn't look like one's coming when the other one's going, you know what I mean? Because that's going to look silly. So it's all about the realism. And that's going back to what we just talked about already with the punches and the swords and everything like that. If you're throwing them up here and if your things are off kilter and not matching, it doesn't look real and it takes people out of the program. And then you go, well, I don't really feel like watching this because it doesn't seem like it's real, you know? So it's all the pieces of the puzzle that you got to put together and collaborate with the other departments that make it come together and look real.
Well, and you talk about that realism, and I think that there could always be like an impulse to go more stylized with this types of thing. At what point, where in the process was the decision made, like, no, we're going to make this, you know, as real as possible?
That started in the very beginning, and we were both on the same page, production and myself. And I mean, I had done a movie called The Last Samurai, and it was all about that as well. And so one of the things when I was reading The Last Samurai and I was basically auditioning to become the fight coordinator for the show, I asked the question. They said, okay, you have a huge ninja sequence, a shinobi sequence in this film. Are we going to have them flipping and doing round off back handsprings and all that Hollywood kind of stuff? Or are we going real? And they said, we're going real. And I went, okay, I want this job, you know, because I wanted to do something that I could really be proud of that was more realistic and fit the story. And it was even more so with Shōgun. They were way more accurate and authentic than we even were in The Last Samurai. So those were the discussions right from the beginning. And I knew that from Hiro Sanada, who was one of the producers. And we had talked before. He asked me to come on the show, and we talked in the very early beginning. And he said, this is even going to be more authentic than The Last Samurai. We have to do everything exactly how it was, or how we know that it was back in the 1600s. Now, none of us were there at that time, obviously, but through historians and reading all the literature and the books and all the specialists that came from Japan, we just went by the numbers and did everything as authentic and realistic as we could. And that meant no long fight scenes with swords, because you get cut with those things, your arm comes off, your head comes off. They're so sharp, and you're going to bleed to death in a matter of minutes. You know what I mean? So we just wanted to portray that so that people get the sense, the drama and the urgency and the danger involved in the action that's going on with the story. And it had to fit the storyline.
It almost sounds like the realism gives the scenes stakes, so that you know that something can happen at any time.
Oh, exactly. And that's what you want the audience to feel and believe. And that's one of the things that I'm going off kilter here a little bit, but we've been trying to get an award for stunts for many, many years. And they say, oh, it's just action. It doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's, you know, it's not an art. Yes, it's very much an art to tie that kind of action into a storyline and have the drama follow through the storyline and have the characters be a part of the action. That's very much a real thing and needs to be recognized. And that's what we try to specialize in, is to not bump people and go, this is just action for action's sake. This is action that fits with the story and causes the drama, causes the emotion for the viewer while the stakes are high.
Yeah, and I feel like nowhere is that more evident than in Lady Mariko's scene in episode 9. That is just one of those moments that is all about both, fighting, but totally about character. And I feel like all of the elements, the acting and the directing and the choreography and all that comes into play there. How much time went into that sequence? I had to imagine that that was a long time coming.
Yes, it was. It took us about 2 weeks to put that whole thing together, a week and a half to 2 weeks. And thankfully Anna was so adept and able to perform that, because she came and practiced with us right from the start of putting that sequence together. So we collaborated on that. My team collaborated on that. And of course, we had to hire about 40 stunt guys to do the initial battle before it was down to just Anna by herself with the other guys, with the Grays. But yeah, that was a huge undertaking, and piece by piece and bit by bit, and we did it in our own rehearsal room at the stage and roughed it out. Got it all. We taped out lines exactly the distance of what everything was at the castle, and then we were allowed to go to the castle when they weren't shooting there and use that location so that we could dial it all in. How many steps it took to get to the gate, and then where the first guard had his altercation with the other two guards and cut them down, and then they carry on. The lady will come forward, and so they start to walk in, and then they take off with all 40 of them fighting, and she just stands in the middle watching. And yes, it brought tears to my eyes watching her performance on the 2 days that we filmed that, as much as it did me watching it when the show came on. It was just such. It was a combination of everything coming together perfectly, is all those elements that you stated earlier. It's just, and when you can do that, you get cinematic gold. And we were fortunate enough, I think, to achieve that on that sequence, especially.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is the type of show. It almost harkens back to a time like I remember I grew up in the 80s of the big, sprawling miniseries of the 80s. And this, you have also the advent of technology, which helps the process. I'm just curious, what makes this work so continually enriching for you? Is it, I mean, you have to know so many different things about so many different things. It's got to be a lot to keep in your head. What keeps you coming back to it?
I'm addicted. It's the creativity. And you know what? As much as we kept everything reality based, there's a lot of creativity that goes into forming the choreography for all of the stunts on this show. It's not just what's written on the page. We took it to a whole nother level from what was on the page even, and kept it reality based, and then it was acceptable by the cast and by the production and so on and so forth. So as long as you don't want to come to work and paint by numbers. You know what I mean? That's no fun. You want to be part of the creative process. And so I'm constantly allowed to be part of that creative process from bringing it off the page and into in front of the camera. And that's what excites me is being a part of that process and collaborating with all the other stunt people, with the actors, with the directors, with the producers, with the writers. It was just amazing, and it just kept you jazzed all the time, every day, because this was just coming together so amazingly, and to be a part of it was, I'm honored, really.
Do the ideas come from what's on the page? Or how specific were some of the sequences on the page, or was a lot of it just as you said, just in collaboration with the showrunners and the directors and the actors?
The page tells you the story and what's happening with the characters. So you have to keep the characters in line with what's going on in their story. And you might have 8 characters in that sequence. So you have to follow all these storylines and do it correctly. Is this person aggressive? Are they a fighter? Or are they, withdrawn and waiting to be protected? Where do you draw the line there? So you have to study the script. You have to know the characters. And then I take it from there. And nothing in the script says they cut this way or they cut that way or they stab this way or they move here or they move there. That is totally left up to me to choreograph. So that's where I really start to have the fun with it, is because I know these characters. This one's going to stay behind the tree. Well, this one goes out and fights here. Then this one picks up a weapon and goes after them. And a lot of times I'll start the choreography about what's inside of me, how I would attack. Okay, I'm coming from here, and I've already holding the weapon, the naginata or the sword, off to my right side. So my first cut's gonna be across this way. I'm not gonna bring it over here and waste time to come to the left, unless I have to block something, and then I can go to the left. It's just, you get a feel for it. And I start out that way, and then I bring my guys into it, and then we start doing things, and something might not feel right. So we change up another move and add a different one. And it just, until you get the flow, that's what takes the time to choreograph these things. And then you got to step back where I would be filming everything and see them do it and go, okay, that flows up to here, but then there's something that bumps me. We got to change something here. So it's just a constant evolution of choreography, almost right until the day, but we get it dialed in so that once we get to set, then it's just, we know what we're doing. We can just, okay, you guys are here, your marks, where you're starting, you go to here, cut, okay, next sequence. And then it saves time when you're filming.
When do you know you have it right? What does that feel like when yes, that's it?
It just, I don't know how to explain that one. That you see it and you go, okay, everything's working, all in coordination with the whole thing. And then I have to always get it approved by the producers and the director, and especially Hiro Sanada, being a producer, but also the lead actor, and what he was involved in, and he oversaw everything. And when they would come in and watch, or they would watch the video, depending on the time they had, when I got those 2 thumbs up, then I was like, yes, we nailed it. You know what I mean? But they were all about giving the thumbs up when it was right. And I have no problem going back to the drawing board. If you want something different, we'll give you whatever you need. We'll find it,
Well, I think based on the response, I think you should know that you nailed it. Everybody go to goldderby.com, make your predictions for the Emmys and the upcoming award season, and stay tuned for interviews with more contenders in the coming weeks. Lauro Chartrand-DelValle, congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was an honor to be here.